All right, and we are live on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and I already said Facebook. Man, I always mess that up. We are brought to you guys by the Drive-In Podcast Network. You guys just heard
the script
there. We've got Dennis and Tony with us right now. Hopefully, Matt will be able to join us in a little bit. He had some work stuff going on. Tony, it's nice to see you again. How you doing today?
Doing good. Nice to be back. I bought 2 kayaks today. That's exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, we've been renting kayaks for years now, and finally I was like, you know what? Actually, we went. It's crazy with everything going on. Kayaks are sold out. Like I never would have thought this in a million years. You find them online, and inventory systems aren't what you want them to be because, like online, it says they're in store, and you go there, and there's not a single kayak in all of Dunham's. Like there's nothing. And then you go to Dick's Sporting Goods, and there's nothing, and Cabela's has nothing. And the worst thing is seeing all the racks where the kayaks that you would have bought have already been purchased. And so you just have to keep going. Like you have to keep going to the next store. Finally, we found, actually, it worked out good. We find a small local shop that we rented the kayaks from in the past. We just bought some from them. So that was pretty nice. But we got our kayaks. We're good to go. I'm ready to get in the water.
Very nice.
I ran into that same thing last week building a deck for the pool. It was nobody in Columbus had deck boards. I had to drive 45 miles to Chillicothe to get deck boards.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You guys are doing life wrong. You just got to stay home all the time. That's what I do. It's just so much more easier. No driving.
I can't stay home anymore. I have to do something.
Well, I had to build the pool deck, so we had something around the pool to make it easier to get in and out of.
You just jump.
Well, my mom is 75 years old. She can jump in, getting in and out.
She's got a spring in her step, I'm sure. She'll be fine. How you doing?
Shit, that's for sure.
Dennis, you had something you wanted to read here? Show?
Yeah, this is the season where we're all wrapped up in doing good things. We're all about Scott Fish Bowl today. There's the Down Under Bowl going on. Drafting with Giants, I think, has a big charity component to it. The Sal Lito and the SFB Podathon. Another thing that just came across my desk today was Gridiron Experts Hunger Bowl 2020. Aaron Sopchak at Aaron Sopchak on Twitter, AARONSOPCHAK, is putting together the Hunger Bowl to raise money for No Kid Hungry. According to the USDA, more than 11 million children in the U.S. live in food insecure homes, many depending on federal food programs to provide them with meals through nutrition programs. These are like WIC, or these are school meal programs. But due to COVID-19, many of them have been left looking for other sources of food due to school closures. Here's where No Kid Hungry steps in. They're raising money with this charity, and all of it's going, the Hunger Bowl, a charity football tournament. We'll see that all proceeds go directly to No Kid Hungry via their fundraising page. And they've got some really cool prizes that if you get into it, you can win a signed Lev Bell jersey, a signed DJ Moore jersey, signed Alvin Kamara jersey, signed Allen Robinson jersey, signed Devontae Adams jersey, and my favorite, the signed Kenny Galladay jersey. If you're interested, it's going to be on Sleeper. 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 super flex, 6 flex positions. So you can literally, this one's for you, Matt Kelly. You can start 7 running backs if you want in this league. Reach out to Aaron, get in, make a donation to No Kid Hungry. It's a great cause. We'll see you around there.
Aaron's a good friend of mine. What did you say? How did you describe food sensitive, or what was it?
Food insecure.
I grew up very food insecure. I grew up on the programs that you just mentioned. And I remember, even all the way to, this is totally different, but like random Christmas presents under the tree, like with handwriting you didn't understand and the paper didn't match, like the whole thing, I grew up with that. So I'll go ahead. I'll make a $250 donation to that right now because you brought that up. And Aaron is a good friend of mine. So I'll reach out to Aaron and make sure that we get that put to the right place. I can't be a part of the league, but I'll make a donation to that. Aaron's a great friend of mine, and he's a part of, I didn't realize he was making memes in the Scott Fish Bowl memes, like with the at Scott Fish Bowl
Avi makers.
Memes. Yeah, the Avi makers. Yeah, memes, not memes. I'm caught up on memes, but yeah, I'm in. That's a great cause. I'm in.
Right on.
That is, man. That's gotta help take care of it. I've talked about it before, kids. Kids can't fend for themselves, and there's certain things that they can't do. They can't help the situations that they're put into, and we have to do our best to help take care of them. So I'm right there with you guys. It's a great cause. If you guys can donate, jump into that and help out, because it is definitely a worthy cause. So as you can see down here at the bottom, scrolling across the screen, we are going to be talking about some NFL news. And then as Dennis already mentioned with the Scott Fishbowl stuff going on, we're going to talk about our team. Just a nice, easy episode today as I will be getting ready to go on vacation. And we didn't want to dive too much into some of the other stuff we've got going on. So for the news, I want to start with one that, Tony, you talked about. And I talked about where we were talking about it. Myles Garrett, I've got a nice little thing here on the bottom of the screen because I love it. I love Browns paid him. But Myles Garrett gets a 5-year extension, so he will be with the Browns for the next 7 years because he's still got 2 years left on his rookie deal. I thought it was a great move by them. It guaranteed him a lot of money as well. He's got full injury guarantees, and he's guaranteed $100 million out of the $125. So he secured the bag, as the kids say. I believe that's how the kids say it, although that may have been an old past thing. But what do you guys think about Myles Garrett getting paid here for the Cleveland Browns and being paid as one, I think actually the highest paid defensive contract now in the NFL?
Well, he's really started to come into his own as a dominant defensive lineman. Helmet swinging incident aside, he's a foundation piece for the defense, plays the run pretty solid, gets to the quarterback, and he's young. So you want to try to lock those players up. The Browns are 2 years away from having the most salary cap space in the NFL. They're 2 years away from trading a 4th rounder for a 2nd rounder and Brock Osweiler, so they could eat $20 million of Osweiler's contract because they had so much cap space. So they've got a guy in charge now, in Andrew Berry, that's part of the Sashi Brown tree, very good with the numbers. And if he thinks that it's a wise investment right now, I'm going to ride along with it and see. I love Garrett's game. He plays hard. He plays tough. He doesn't take plays off. So, let's roll. Let's put Vernon on the other end, Ogunjobi in the middle, and let's wreak some havoc on that quarterback.
You nailed it, Dennis. There's nothing else to add. He's a dominant presence. I mean, he's just a young, absolute stud, and you got to pay him. I mean, it's a situation where you can build a new foundation. You can start over again. For all the decisions with the draft capital and things that I have questions about with the Browns organization, I think they really could improve there. This is a good sign. I mean, this is really a sign that they're looking at this football team and they're recreating it from the ground up. Let's be defensive focused. And of course, okay, let's not get lost. We've got Odell Beckham. We've got Jarvis Landry. We've got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I'm not pretending that doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter if you're expecting Baker to throw the ball 45 or 50 times a game because he can't stay off the field. It's incredible. And I think that the contract makes a lot of sense. Everybody wants to latch on to the fact that he blew a circuit and hit Mason Rudolph in the head with a helmet. I get it, man. And I totally get it. But if we're going to do that, then we got to talk about a whole bunch of other players. Kareem Hunt can't be there anymore. I mean, we could just look just at the Browns and just pick that team apart one player at a time down to half a roster because of stupid mistakes. I think
and everybody else in the AFC North would like us to do that too.
Well, of course they would.
Yeah, I'm with both of you. I loved it. I think there's obviously all the stats, and again, we've mentioned it a couple times here with what happened with him in Pittsburgh and Mason Rudolph. He got suspended for the rest of the season, but he was on pace to break the sack record last year with the way that he was going. I know his sacks don't look great if you look at it in total, but last year he really started to come on as a truly superior defensive end. Now, he's not Aaron Donald. But I think he's in that rung right below Donald. I think Donald's clearly the best, but like Chris Jones, who we'll talk about here in a minute, I think Garrett's a little bit better than him, but they're in that same tier. I love that they're building around a guy like him because I do think he is the future of the franchise. Now you've got a guy like that locked up for 7 years going into his prime and probably a little bit after, but I'm fine with that. You extend these contracts out the way that you do so as a guy like Andrew Berry, who's as smart as he is, can kind of mess with the cap, and you at least know what's coming now for the next 7 years. You know the money that you're putting into Myles Garrett. think it's a great move. You got a lot of other guys coming up here soon in Baker, Chubb, Denzel Ward. Are you going to pay Odell and Landry coming up in the next couple of years? So there's a lot of different things going on, but I love the move. I love them showing the love to a guy like Myles Garrett, who, from everything, again, being as big a Browns fan as I am, I pay attention to all that stuff. As big of a leader as he is in that locker room, I think it was great for them to show him some love and pay him. So I love the move by them, and I think it's a great move altogether. So another defensive player that I just talked about, Chris Jones, he got paid. I was kind of surprised by that one. Obviously, they just gave Patrick Mahomes the $500 million contract. I did not think that they were going to have enough money to sign Chris Jones. I think doing that just makes them the favorites in the AFC again with having that guy, especially as good as he was. So what were your guys' thoughts on Chris Jones getting paid as well?
My thoughts are brief on it, and it's exactly what you said, too. I hate to seem cheap and say that twice in a row, but I didn't think they'd have the money. And yet here we are. Now they got him, and I am at the point where I feel like, and maybe this is insanity, the Kansas City Chiefs are likely the favorites, and they're my favorite. Okay, I'll just say it. I think they're the next dynasty in football. And by adding Chris Jones and by keeping him, it keeps it keeps the team, the unit as one. And so had the defense started to crumble, then I would worry about Kansas City, but it's amazing how they've done what they've done. And Chris Jones has got to be a part of Kansas City if they want to have another major push into the playoffs like they did.
He's shown that he can, from the interior of the line, he's a top 3 guy getting pressure on the quarterback. So you want to lock that guy up and keep him. He's not old. So you have to I'm a believer in you build teams from the inside out. Then you put the stud quarterback in there, and then you keep it together as long as you can. Then you have to start over, because at some point, I know they've got Mahomes locked up for the next 10 years. We're going to have to see what happens with the salary cap. If there's revenue reductions, does that mean the salary cap goes down? It'll be something very interesting to watch. But I'm all in. I'm all for them locking up Jones. It's a smart move, in my opinion. I don't know how it's going to affect when you have other guys coming up here in the next year or two with renewals. I think Kelsey's got some time, a couple of years left, but he's going to be 31, 32 years old. How much money are they going to invest in a tight end at that point? Tyreek Hill, I think he's got 2 years left on his deal he signed recently. So, and he's only getting better at this point. And then who's to say what's going to happen with Edwards-Helaire? Granted, running backs don't matter, but if Edwards-Helaire is putting up 90 catches and 800 yards rushing, he's going to be a perfect fit for that team. So they have to, you need smart guys in that front office working salary cap magic. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, with Helaire, you've got technically 5 years with that kid.
Time.
In the first round, to pick up the 5th-year option. I mean, they've got him for half of Mahomes' contract at least. So They've got time to figure out what they want to do with them for sure. All right, so the next one, this was very interesting to me, and I'll let you guys go first because I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. But I think I'm really starting to really like this deal in the end. That was Derrick Henry. He gets a 4-year, $50 million contract, $25.5 million guaranteed. What are your guys' thoughts on Derrick Henry, who I think outside of Chris Jones, I think those were the two that nobody expected anything to get done, and then they both got done on I guess deadline day, whatever you want to call it, before they had to sign or play on the franchise tender. So your thoughts on Derrick Henry and the Titans?
I predicted that they would sign Tannehill and Derrick Henry would have to play under the franchise tag on the Huddle Up podcast. I mean, that's just what made all the sense in the world. I don't understand the contract. I get Derrick Henry's talent, and I understand that his side and his speed, that combination is so unique, the strength that goes with it. I mean, there aren't very many players in football like Derrick Henry, and I totally understand that. But I feel like I've learned my lesson from Todd Gurley and Devonta Freeman, and I mean, we could keep going back to running backs that got contracts that they just couldn't live up to. Zeke, one of them. The Zeke contract isn't working, and it's only been a year. So maybe it was because he wasn't with the team. It took him some time, but year after year after year, Zeke's less productive than he was the year before. And it does scare me. We talked about this on this podcast before. I wish there was a way that we could offer these running backs contracts that were heavily incentivized early in their career, because it doesn't make sense to me to pay Derrick Henry. I don't want to pay him. I don't even want to, like, I get that there's not just like you can't just put Marlon Mack from my Indianapolis Colts. You can't just put him behind that offensive line and pretend you're going to get the same efficiency. You're not going to. So I'm not trying to devalue Derrick Henry, but I'm saying what it costs the team just doesn't make sense to me. And I wish there was a way that we could pay these guys, like we just talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What if he has 60 catches a game? I mean, 60. Oh God, that would be incredible. 60 catches a season for 5 seasons on his rookie deal. I mean, come on. At some point, that system is broken to me. And so I didn't like the deal. I thought it was too much money for a running back, and I accept the fact that he is great, but I just thought it was too much money for a running back.
Well, it is a lot of money for a running back for the next 2 years.
Yeah, that's what
yeah. That's the truth. Yeah.
And so in 2 years, what's going to happen? AJ Brown is going to be up for a contract deal. They can get out of out of Henry's contract after 2021 for $6 million in dead cap. So that's a fairly reasonable out. And he'll be what? He'll be 27 then.
Yeah.
To me, I look at it and I'm thinking, even if they're not ready, they'll be able to get out of it after 2022 still with $6 million in dead cap. So they front loaded it. They gave him a bunch of cash up front in the signing bonus, and then they made it 4 years to spread it out. Well, once they get past these next couple of years, the hit isn't going to be that drastic. Now they have, Derrick Henry is a Mike Vrabel player. He's big, he's burly, he's a hammer. To Mike Vrabel, it seems like every problem is a nail, and he's a hammer. That's how he's a man's man, burly, never smiling, growling around the field. And Derrick Henry kind of fits that with his play style, with that hammering it up the middle. I mean, you can't hammer it up the middle with Deion Lewis.
You can't. That was. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
They've got a match for their play style. At some point in his career, Vrabel will adapt his style to the players he has. Well, right now he's got these style of players. This is what he's going to do. He made it deep into the playoff. He's betting on it right now. He's going all in. This is my style. This is what works. I'm going to go for it. And if in a couple years, they're sitting at 8-8, 7-9, he'll retool or he'll get fired. But they'll be able to get out from under Henry's contract. And if they give Henry 600 carries over the next 2 years, 700 carries over the next 2 years, come 2022 when they cut him, Henry's not going to sign another big fat deal. People are going to look at the wear and tear, 900 carries, 1,000 carries in a 3-year span, and they're going to, he's going to be playing on the cheap for the rest of his career.
Yeah, so I really like the deal, actually. And some of it is the stuff that I've looked into today. I've obviously been listening to a lot of NFL radio stuff and listening to them talk about this. And we know that, me and Matt, which, again, hopefully he'll be able to join us later. If you guys listened to us all last season, we're not big fans of Derrick Henry. And I was kind of surprised how often he kept proving us wrong, right? We did not expect him to have the season that he had. And at the end of the season, he came out, and I remember it was Super Bowl weeks they were having it. It was in Florida, or it was somewhere nice. I remember that. I can't remember exactly where they had the Super Bowl this past year. Was it in Florida? Either one of you remember?
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm making a screenshot.
But because I just remember beaches and everything. I was watching them do some NFL stuff, and he came out and he said that he wanted – when they were like, hey, so what kind of contract are you looking for from the Tennessee Titans? And he said the Zeke deal is the starting point. And I laughed. I was like, there's no way he's getting what Zeke got because, in my opinion, Zeke's the better running back, and he does more. He catches the ball where Henry caught 18 balls last year. Like, he's just not that good of a receiver out of the backfield. He wanted $15 million a year. The Titans only wanted to pay him $10 million a year. He gets $10 million based on the not the salary cap. What is it? The franchise tag. Had he signed the franchise tag, so they met in the middle, 12.5. As Dennis said, they got a 2-year out. In 2 years, they can get out of the deal. From everything I've read, this was a huge thing for the locker room as well for Tennessee. The fact to see a guy who's been productive for them, who's been all about the Titans. He came out and said he wanted to stay with Tennessee. He does all kinds of stuff for that team in the locker room and everything, and they decided to pay him. I think it was a great deal for them. Again, they can get out after 2 years, which we'll see what happens. I think there's another way for them to rework the deal or something like that. He's only 27, so he'll be right on the verge of 30 when those 2 years come up, which we all say is kind of the fall off for running backs. But to have the next 2 years with what I think he was the most important one, because that Tennessee offense is built to run through Derrick Henry. Like, Tannehill is there. Tannehill's going to do great things, but I think that team is built around Derrick Henry. And so to get him for that kind of money, I thought was a really good move for them. And I like that they both worked together to make this deal happen. They put their egos aside. The Titans did, because I agree with you, Tony. That's a lot of money to pay a running back that many people think is kind of is interchangeable nowadays in the NFL. You've got a few elite guys, and then you can kind of put anybody else in here, right? Is what some people view the running back position. I don't, but a lot of people view it that way.
I get it. I get what you're saying. Derrick Henry is the exception to that. I mean, you said it best. You can't. Who did you say? Deion Lewis. You can't just put Deion Lewis there. And I said Marlon Mack. I mean, I don't think you could put Le'Veon Bell in that system and have the same result that you had out of Derrick Henry. So I don't want to. I'm not trying to downplay or disrespect Derrick Henry's talent in any way at all. But because you're right, you can't just put any running back in that system and expect them to have the same production. That's not going to happen. He's special in that system.
But I like my biggest thing for them was I like that they came together, that Derrick Henry had to put aside some of his ego and wanting to get paid the $15 million. Said, you know what, look, $12 million is going to give me a little bit more than I would have gotten had I signed the franchise tag. I've got it for 2 years. I got this much money. I think it's 25 guaranteed or something like that. He's got this money guaranteed. He knows where his future is going to be for at least the next 2 years. And Tennessee did the same thing. Like, you know, we're going to give this guy a little bit more money. He's been our franchise the past year, helped us get into the playoffs, was probably the reason we made it to the AFC Championship game. So they put the egos aside, work together to get this deal done. So I think it's a great thing. And I bring up the working together to get the deal done to talk about the last one, because I got in a huge argument today with some Cowboys fans about this.
Well, before you move on to that, I don't know if they really work together. I think Tennessee basically said, look, this is what we're going to – this is our offer. We're either going to franchise tag you or you're going to take this. If you want security, this is it. And I think that Henry – just didn't he wasn't ready to call their bluff anymore. It was close enough to the deadline that he took a team favorable deal. Mm-hmm. He took the security. So did they work together? Maybe a touch, but he didn't have a ton of leverage. He was going to be franchise tagged, or he was going to take that deal. And but it sets his family up. He's making good money for the next 2 years. He's got a nice guarantee, so he's going to be financially stable. But he didn't. Whereas the impression we got from Dallas was Jerry caved to Zeke. You don't have that impression here.
Right. Well, where I say they work together is earlier in the season, the Titans had come out and said they wanted to pay him $10 million a year over whatever amount, and Henry said he wanted 15. So they came to the agreement of 12.5, which is more than the franchise tag, and again, a longer year deal. So that's not something I'm sure that some of it for Derrick Henry was, well, you know what, who knows if I'll be able to get this again. I imagine that they wouldn't have franchise tagged him twice. Maybe they would have, but I think there's that's why I said you have to put your ego aside, though. As Derrick Henry, if you feel you deserve $15 million a year, you put your ego aside to take, hey, I'm gonna take this 12.5. I'm gonna say, you know what, this is better for the team, better for me, my family, my future now, and I'm gonna take this money. So that's kind of what I mean by I feel like they work together to get it done. Because Dak and the Cowboys could not get it done. And this makes no sense to me whatsoever. And so I'm going to let you guys go first because everybody considers me not just a Dak, but like a Cowboy hater in general. So I'm going to get your guys' opinions on it first, and then I'll kind of give you guys my thought process and see if you can kind of understand where I'm coming from.
You want it, Tony?
No, go for it. I went
All
first
right.
last couple times.
Well, I feel like the argument can be made for both sides. Dak, he looks at Mahomes and says, well, I know I'm not going to get $500 million, but what they're offering me for what I give them is, in his estimation, worth more. He's going to bet on himself. He didn't flinch. He said, I'll take the $30 million franchise tag. And if you want to franchise me next year, it's what, $37 million?
Yeah. He ended up with like almost $70 million. I mean,
right.
Over 2 years.
And then he's going to be what, a 27, 28-year-old quarterback still in his prime.
Yeah.
You know, because I would be very surprised if Dallas decided, well, we're going to go ahead and franchise him a third time. Because then it'd be what, $50 million or something crazy like that.
Yeah, at that point it becomes impossible. I don't know
Right.
the percentage jump, but it becomes impossible at that point.
So, you know, did I expect it to get worked out? I did, because Jerry has a tendency to cave. But, you know, we've seen him screw up with Romo and not get things done like they needed to do, and build a team around Romo to get him deep into the playoffs. So why would we expect, anything different here?
$30 million is a lot of money. I mean, for
a
quarterback. I mean, that's a lot of money for a quarterback. They're really, I mean, that's what the league average of the highest five paid. Is that how the franchise tag works? It's
I believe
top
so.
five. It's the average of those guys. So you're talking, there's only 2 or 3 quarterbacks. I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, so don't catch me on fire for this. But there's only 2 or 3 quarterbacks that are making more than $30,000 a year. And now Patrick Mahomes. So add another one to the list. But come on, Dak. I don't have any disrespect for Dak, but you can't look at Patrick Mahomes and think that you're the same caliber of difference maker for your team as Patrick Mahomes is.
Well, and so I don't feel like he didn't do that.
No, he didn't do that.
He said that, you know, I'm somewhere in that space between the franchise tag and Patrick Mahomes.
I don't think
I'm at least in the middle of it.
No, the middle is like $32.5 million. I mean,
no, Mahomes is getting what, like $40 million a year, $50 million a year?
Is it? I don't think
on average. I mean,
with guarantees and everything, if it all plays out the way it's supposed to,
$503 million over 10 years. It's about 50.
Yeah, but that's with a lot of bonuses. That's with a lot of extra stuff that has to happen in there. I don't know. For me, if I'm Dak Prescott, I'm playing on the franchise tag happily. And I'm just like you said, I'm challenging them to do it again. What was his name? Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That's the plan. If I'm Dak Prescott, that's the plan. The Kirk Cousins model. Franchise me twice, joke's on you, and then I'll go get my offer. And so what if it's not the number 2 or the number 3 quarterback? It will be. It will be a huge contract, and he probably deserves a big contract. But I remember hearing something today about some divisional opponents last year where he didn't have a single touchdown drive, like in divisional games against the Eagles, and there was one other one. I don't remember where I heard it or who I heard it from. It may have been Colin on the way to getting the kayaks. But anyway, that's not the point. There are some questions about Dak Prescott. I mean, is he the guy? Aaron Rodgers puts his team on his back. You pay Aaron Rodgers the money, even if that's different. I could get lost. I mean, I could just get totally lost on a tangent here. There are things about Dak that concern me. He hasn't done the things that he needed to do to take that highest, most powerful offense in the league to the next level. They were 8-8. Is that right? 8-8. I mean, guys, the best offense in football is 8-8. So that brings up other questions. We're going down a wormhole, the defense and the play calling and the head coach and all that stuff. But come on, if the quarterback was that good, he would have won those games. And he would have won enough games to put himself into a position to be into the playoffs. And that is, I think, the reason why he didn't get paid this year. Maybe he'll get paid next year. We'll have to see. But I wouldn't have signed him to a long-term deal. If I was Jerry Jones, I'd have played him on the franchise tag. He's worth $30 million. I'm not arguing that point at all. I'm not saying he's worth less, but I'm not going to say that he's worth more than that because he just hasn't proven that yet.
Yeah, so that's kind of the way that I took it. A Cowboys fan asked me today, and we got into a pretty, I don't want to say an argument. We got into a little bit of a fight about it, or however you want to put it, in that was my argument, is that Dak is a great quarterback. I said he's probably in the 8 to 12 range in the NFL, and he rebutted me, and he said that he's at least top 5. I disagree with that. Dak is a very good player, and they did have a really good offense last year. I think they had the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL last year. So clearly Dak and that offense put up points. But as you just mentioned, Tony, is what I brought up. Is like, when did Dak do it when it mattered? He hasn't. There's one time that I can think of, and that is a couple years ago against the Seattle Seahawks in his first playoff win, where they were down. They needed a first down to kill the game, and Dak went on like a 15-yard QB run. When nobody was open, rushers came in. I remember he went right up the middle. It killed the game off. Seattle had no chance to come back at that point. And I was like, that's the only time that I can remember Dak doing something by himself that kind of like was elite, ended the game. Every other time they've needed him, he has failed. He has come up short. He has not won them the game. For me, I felt like it was, while I agree that the Cowboys have not handled this situation well, they've done this kind of ass backwards, signing Zeke, signing Jalen Smith, signing all these other players and not signing Dak Prescott. But from everything I've read, the Cowboys offered him $32 to $35 million a year, somewhere in between there, for 5 years. And the biggest thing that Dak didn't want to do is Dak didn't want to sign for 5. He wanted to sign for 4 because he wanted to be able to kick the can again in 4 years. And that's where I say I appreciate what Derrick Henry did and putting his ego aside is, if you really wanted to play for the Cowboys, you just signed the 5-year deal. Okay, so you kick the can again at 32 instead of 31. Big fucking deal. You're a quarterback. You're going to get a second contract at 32 or 31. So I think it's more of, and I don't know this, we saw Dak's brother come out and tweet a bunch of stuff out, and it seems like there may be a little bit of bad blood going on between them. Maybe it is something that we don't know going on behind the scenes on why Dak didn't want to do that. But for me, I actually put this more on Dak than I do the Cowboys. And for me, that's saying a lot because I don't think Jerry Jones runs that franchise very well.
Well, Dak, he didn't have any game-winning drives last year, but in the previous 3 years, he had 5, 4, and 5. And fourth quarter comebacks in 2018, he had 3. 2016, he had 5. This is according to Pro Football Reference. So,
okay, how many of
those are regular season games.
How many of those were him and not Zeke? Because last year was the first year that Dak was the offense, not Zeke.
Well, last year in the playoffs, he had 1 fourth quarter comeback and 1 game-winning drive.
Yeah, but okay.
No, that was 2018, not 19.
It's them going down the field and scoring, though, right? That's considered a game-winning drive. So my point is, do we really know a couple years ago? Because I believe it last year. Because last year that offense, it did. It centered around Dak. We saw him kind of throw the ball a lot more. Zeke did kind of get pushed to the side. But before that, how much of that was Dak and how much of that was Zeke moving down the field and Zeke being the one who killed off and was game-winning drives?
And that's my point. That's what's so interesting to me about this is I mentioned before, every year, year after year, Zeke has become less efficient. Dak is going to become more important. That just makes things even more confusing to me, is that this team, there's going to come a point where Jerry has to rely on Dak. And there's no other, at some point, Zeke will not be the Zeke that he was when he drafted him. That's just what it is. It is, the whole thing is a mess. I'm starting to lean on your side, Matt, where maybe Jerry's not as good of an owner as I thought he was. It does seem a little backwards. You're right.
Yeah, I definitely think some of this is on them with what they did. Again, they gave in to Zeke and paid him, and we can, I love Zeke, obviously being a former Buck. I think he's one of the better running backs in the league, but I think we can all be honest and say that he has not necessarily handled himself that well off the field. On the field, he's been a stud, but off the field, he has not handled himself in the right way. Dak has been, the exemplary employee throughout this entire thing with the Cowboys, right? He's been the franchise guy. Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Hey, I'm all about the Cowboys and everything. So he's handled everything the right way, and he hasn't got paid. So I can see where he might be frustrated with that, right? To sit there and be like, look, I've been all about the Cowboys. I'm all about doing this, all about doing that. And then, you know what? Nothing. Doesn't look who it is. Mention Dak Prescott, Matt Fox appears. So he's handled everything the right way, though, off and on, for the most part on the field. He has handled everything the right way. Dak deserved to get paid. I'm not saying that he doesn't. He deserves to be a very highly paid quarterback. I just don't like the fact that they offered him $32 to $35 million a year, and he said no because he wanted 4 years instead of 5 years. That's where I put the issues on Dak, not Jerry Jones. Matt, welcome here. You want to? I'm sure you. End of that conversation. You want to jump in? We're talking about Dak's deal before we jump in and talk about our Scott Fishbowl rosters.
No, I'm loyal. I heard all the hurtful things Tony said about Derrick Henry.
I didn't say that many hurtful things. I said I respected him.
Derrick Henry's mother feels differently.
Okay, well, I'll have to have a conversation with her then.
Yeah, I've been walking around listening. I think Dallas is stupid. I mean, they're going to end up costing themselves all kinds of money, or they're going to end up rolling with the 95-year-old red rifle.
That's fine with me, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, all I care about is, as I've said before, I apparently have so many shares of the Dallas offense. I've become a closet fan. When the other Matt gets his dolphin tattoo, I feel like I'm going to end up getting like a tramp stamp of a Cowboy star.
Cowboy star.
Hey, there you go. At least I won't be the only one in for some embarrassing tattoo.
I was just disappointed that a lot of the franchise tag players couldn't work out deals. I wrote about it on my blog today, but I was really bummed out about Denver not settling up with Justin Simmons too. I think it's going to be kind of interesting. You had 16 players tagged and only 2 got deals, and Derrick Henry's deal was almost kind of a surprise. I actually think what might have motivated that was for the last 2 days as they were approaching the deadline, they started showing all the running backs that are going to be free agents in 2021, and if you were being honest, Derrick Henry was like the 5th best guy on that list, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, the Titans and Derrick Henry have come to a compromise arrangement.
Right.
So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I should have brought that up earlier. That's another thing that I think why Derrick Henry put his ego aside, because just not even the running backs coming out that'll be free agents next year. You got to think of all the running backs coming from college: Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Chuba Hubbard. Like, you're not going to quite have the I guess the clout that you think you might have. So yeah, I agree with you on that as well.
And honestly, we saw Le'Veon Bell probably take what most people at the time thought was the best negotiating tactic to try to say, hey, I'm worth more than this, I'm worth more than this in your system, and it has completely not worked for him. I mean, he got a long-term deal, but it wasn't for the numbers he was looking for. He forfeit more in franchise tag money than he ended up getting in a long-term contract, and it's 2 years later, and he's almost an afterthought. It's been really depressing to watch it play out.
All right. So anybody else want to say anything else on the Dak Prescott thing, or we can start talking about the Scott Fishbowl stuff?
Well, where do you think he's going to be playing next year?
They'll be in Dallas here. I think
Dallas.
Yeah, they'll tag him again. Worst case scenario.
Okay, so here's where Matty B is going to be right again. Whatever. I mean, I'm not all about being right, but I am going to be right on this. And I'll find the arc. I'll find wherever I said this on the episode, because I know I said this. I think they are going to franchise tag him again, and they're going to trade him, would be my guess, because I don't think they want the $37 million cap hit, and I think something's going to happen where they're going to fall in love with Andy Dalton, or somehow they're going to go 8-8 or 7-9 again this year, and they're going to be in position to get one of these other quarterbacks coming out. And I think the relationship at this point is more frayed than Dak is leading on to be on social media, where he said, hey, all cool, whatever, I'll play on the franchise tag. I think the fact that it didn't happen, he wanted the 4, they wanted the 5, whatever. I think that both sides kind of don't like each other at this point. Not sure that it gets fixed. I think that they will franchise tag him again, and he'll be gone.
Well, I don't think if they franchise tag him, I don't think they can trade him. I mean, where are you going to trade him to with a $37 million contract?
I would
Washington when they give up on Dwayne Haskins.
Bill Barnwell actually put up an article about this. I can't remember, it was either yesterday or today. There's actually close to 6 teams that could take on that contract next year, all with either aging or quarterbacks that are on the hot seat.
I think I know of one team that could take on that contract.
Yeah, Tony's Indianapolis Colts on. There's a lot of teams.
I wouldn't mind having Dak around. I'm telling you that much for sure.
The Jaguars are another one who was, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. The 49ers could take it because they can get out of Jimmy G's contract.
The question, though, is it's going to have to be a team that does relatively well this season, because if it's a team that does relatively poorly, they're going to look at the prospect of getting a top quarterback in the draft and say,
right.
"No, we don't.
Well,
we don't need."
Will
this.
they? Because
That's why it's the Colts, because the Colts are going to win the Super Bowl, and then they're going to go get Dak Prescott.
I like the moxie to beat out Patrick Mahomes. No, okay, so I'll put it to you this way. Will it, though? Because obviously the Jaguars are probably like in prime position to get Trevor Lawrence. And so say some other team, maybe Justin Fields. But for me, like, again, this is from like a noted Dak hater. Would I rather have Dak Prescott or Trey Lance? Give me Dak Prescott. He's a proven winner in the NFL. Give me Dak Prescott over a bunch of those rookies. And again, you get him on that, and then you agree to your terms of how you're going to sign him long-term. Now you have your franchise quarterback locked up for whatever, 5-6 years at that point. Like, I think it would make more sense to bring in a guy like Dak who we know can win on the NFL level. That's just me personally. All right, I'm going to see if this works. I don't know if it will. I feel like it's probably not, but I'm going to – nope, it didn't. Son of a gun. I was trying –
Imagine if Brees retires and New Orleans trades for Dak.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Dak over Jameis Winston. That's for damn sure. All right, let's try it again. See if this works. Maybe. Oh, it did. Look at that. All right, we got Dennis's team here. I think. Did it disappear?
It was there.
There we go. It just takes up my whole screen.
Yep.
Guys now. All right.
My team.
All right, Dennis. So kind of walk us through your team here. Give us your thoughts on it, and then we'll kind of give you what we think of your team here. How you think you feel. You think you can win your division. You were in Conference 8, Magic 8 Ball. We know you had a wonderful little interaction with someone else in this division earlier today. So give us a breakdown of your team.
Well, I just had to text my mom back. She wanted me to make sure you guys knew she's only 74. So when I mentioned her earlier in the pool.
I told you she's got the
Hi, Mom. No, I don't think my team is terribly strong. I'm definitely gonna need my wide receivers to step up and outperform. Slayton has a chance to be the wide receiver 1 in New York. I'm a big Preston Williams fan, so I do like both of those. Mike Williams, I'm hot and cold on. I go back and forth. Some days I think he's going to have 65 receptions and 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns, and other days I think he's going to have 45 receptions and 650 yards and 3 touchdowns. Hopefully Paris Campbell can work a bunch of magic out of the slot. Going in, looking at the scoring, one of the things I wanted to do was to grab 3 quarterbacks. And so I decided consciously to try to get 3 quarterbacks early. I did go for upside with Burrow as my 3rd quarterback. Overall, I don't think my team is really a contender. I'm going to have to get some breaks and have some guys step up. I've got Saquon, who is great, and if he finishes, for RB1, RB2, that may be enough if some of my other guys step up. Lindsey, Singletary, Mostert, all have some potential, but will it be consistent? That's really what it's going to come down to. There were some, like one of the guys I was looking at late that the Podfather sniped me on was JaMychal Hasty. Just as one of those roll the dice, why the hell not kind of things. I think Chris Conley at 1704, he has the potential to be the 2 in Jacksonville. I think he played the most snaps of all their wide receivers last year. So I do think he's going to have a pretty prominent role there. We'll see what happens. I kind of snagged Deion Lewis as a handcuff to Barkley just in case. And I grabbed Reggie Bonifant.
Just to screw over the McCaffrey owner.
Just on the offhand chance that McCaffrey, after his 1,000 season with this crazy offseason, can't quite hold up. I don't like Sternberger as my second tight end, but he was the best of what was left there. So you can see in round 15, tight ends went pretty quickly. So again, it's a mad team. I've posted numerous comments about it being not living up to my hopes and expectations when I decided to go with the 3 early quarterback strategy.
I think it's a good team. I mean, I think it's the problem is it. Okay, listen, I'm sorry, Dennis. I respect you. Everything has to work out. It all has to work out. Like everything has to work out perfectly for you.
And it was definitely a weight on wide receiver team build, because they were like when I took Mostert, there was certainly opportunities to take guys like Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf. You know, those were some guys. One of the guys that I didn't get that I was targeting, I honestly was targeting at 209. I was targeting Kyler Murray, who went at 208.
Ooh, yeah, brutal.
Yeah, you know, that was a little bit rough, but I agree with you. I'm going to need a lot of things to work out right.
Yeah, but it's there. I could see it happening. I mean, come on. We can see this. We can see it happening.
Playoffs, I got a puncher's chance.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't think waiting on wide receiver is that bad because, a lot of people were waiting on wide receiver, even though, I think all of us on here in our hearts, wide receivers are number one. You have to adjust to the scoring in a league. And in this league, they were probably the fourth most important thing.
Yeah, I grabbed Singletary at the 704. I was hoping that Darius Geis might fall back to me at 809 with people being afraid of his injury status. But he actually went 3 picks later at 707.
Yeah, the same thing happened for me. Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to end up screwing me on mine here is that because I did not wait on wide receiver like I feel like all three of you did. But I mean, I don't hate it. I think it's a decent team. I think it's probably better than mine. I haven't really paid much attention to mine, if I'm being honest. My draft just ended like 2 days ago. So, but I like your running backs, and I love your tight ends. I'm a big Jay Sternberger fan, and obviously getting Mark Andrews there in the second round. I wish I would have waited on Mark Andrews in mine because he ended up going in like the 3rd or 4th round, or actually went, I think, almost in the 5th round in mine, where I took George early. So, yeah, I wish I would have waited looking at mine. So let's pull up a different one now. Let's see who I can get on here. I just had them all set up. All right, Tony's is going to be next. Let's pull Tony's draft. I actually haven't even looked at yours yet, Tony, so I'm kind of excited to see how this worked out.
We'll see.
All right, so Michael Thomas, Sanders, Taylor, Stafford, Garoppolo, Waller, Jones. Man, I kind of like it. I really do.
I like it. I kind of like it. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I lost my focus, and I never committed to any one direction. I came into the draft like everybody else, saying I'm going after these early running backs. I'm taking an early running back. I don't have that. Let me see here real quick. I took Michael Thomas at 110, and I felt like that was like really, really great. Like I felt like when I saw Michael Thomas at 110, I had no choice. The running backs left were Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and then I took Miles Sanders after with my second pick. So a bunch of running backs went after I took Michael Thomas. And I'm afraid that first pick that I took with Michael Thomas made my draft so confusing to me that I lost my strategy in the first pick because I felt like I couldn't commit either way, if that makes sense at all. They were great. Now here, and it came back to bite me in the ass at the 310. I'm sitting at the 310 and Jonathan Taylor's there. I've already got Michael Thomas and Miles Sanders, which honestly, I feel pretty good about those two as my first two, especially with everything going on with the wide receiver situation in Philadelphia. I really feel like Miles Sanders could have the 50 or 60 targets he needs to be a workhorse. At 310, Chris Godwin was sitting there. And I thought, man, I want to have Chris Godwin here. But I told myself going into this draft that I was going to be running back focused, and the running backs keep getting gobbled up. So I passed on Chris Godwin for Jonathan Taylor. And to this day, it makes me sick to my stomach. Come to find out, our group is really, really active. I don't think that Jonathan Taylor would have been there at the 403. I couldn't have taken Godwin and then Jonathan Taylor like thought I could at the time. I thought I could manipulate that. He would have been gone. They already told me that was in their queue. So maybe it is the right choice, but I will for the rest of this year, I will wonder what would happen if I would have picked Godwin instead of Jonathan Taylor at the 310.
Well, if Taylor turns out the way I think he's going to, as in finishing as a top 12 back in fantasy this year, I think you're going to be just fine having
I hope so.
Taylor right there.
That's what I'm hoping.
I mean,
for.
I think it's good. I'm not going to lie. I feel like your team is a lot closer to mine in the fact that I did not go as running back heavy as I wanted to. I was very wide receiver heavy. And then I ended up kind of grabbing a bunch of flyer guys late. But, I mean, looking at yours, like I really like it. I mean, Herndon, a nice, great steal, a guy who could be really good. I mean, Sam Darnold likes to throw into the short areas of the field, down the middle of the field where Chris Herndon will be. Cole Beasley, I think, is a huge get for you. I like Nyheim Hines as well. AJ Green, Landry, Lockett. So I think you've got a lot of upside on your team. I love the Josh Gordon pick. That's just because I root for that kid there with your last pick. So I like it all together. I think I really do think it's a good team. Dennis, Matt, you guys have any thoughts?
You know, I feel like the Josh Gordon pick is wasted. As big a fan of Josh Gordon as I am, I mean, if you're gonna waste a pick, the 22nd round is where to waste it. Corey Davis actually went in the 17th round of my draft, and at 1704, I was debating between Corey Davis and Chris Conley.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah,
I do feel this team, although I like most of the starting lineup, I do feel like it's the same as yours, Dennis. A lot of things have to work out for me. I mean, AJ Green has to be who we thought he was. And if AJ Green's not who we thought he was, honestly, this team comes down to Ronald Jones and AJ Green. And if they work out the way we want them to, then I can contend. But if they're who we thought they were, then I'm kind of fucked.
And you need to hope that Jonathan Taylor isn't as good at catching passes as the coaching staff says he is, or the Nyheim Hines pick at 11-10. Is a severe overpay.
One or the other. You're right. You're absolutely right about that.
Well, I don't think it's that bad because if Jonathan Taylor's as good as they say it is, then he's getting most of those looks. So I think it's maybe you took him a little earlier than he needed to go. I don't know what Hines' ADP was for this, but I think you, for the most part, in my opinion, you secured that backfield though.
That's my point. That was my point.
In it, or you're going to have Taylor's getting everything,
yeah.
And that's why
Marlon Mack says hello.
Hi, Marlon.
Marlon Mack says hello from the bench. That's fine. He can sit there and say hello all he wants. He doesn't matter. So
we should clip this because knowing my track record, in about 3 months, we're both going to be drinking while we remember this fun time.
Setting lineups.
That part is probably true, since me and you definitely seem to have running backs shutting us up all season. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on Tony's roster?
I like your team, and I think you have potential to really compete. The thing that I guess I would be nervous about, which when we get to mine, I have some positions I'm nervous about, is 1 or 2 big injuries at quarterback or running back would be devastating.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially, like if Stafford, what if his 2020 went the way his 2019 went? That would be such a bummer.
Yeah, that would be devastating.
Yeah, that was question I was going to ask you really quick. Do you have to go?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Are you worried at all just having Stafford and Garoppolo? Because I actually love the Garoppolo pick. I think in Scott Fishbowl format specifically, he's actually a very underrated quarterback with how good his completion percentage is. But does it worry you at all only having the 2 quarterbacks?
Yeah, it absolutely worries me. I mean, there's no way around it. I don't like Superflex. I mean, that's just the way I am. I'm wired to believe that the quarterback position is not one that I want to overvalue in fantasy football. And that's just obviously the absolute exact opposite of what a Superflex league is. So I struggle with that anyway. And so with Stafford and Garoppolo, with the scoring that they have, I know they're both relatively accurate quarterbacks. Stafford's a gunslinger. I'm going to get the yards out of Stafford. And Garoppolo's not going to hurt me. Outside of that, I mean, the 7-10 where I took Ronald Jones, I would like to have taken my 3rd quarterback there, but that's not the reality.
You weren't the most optimistic on Ronald Jones on this podcast.
I wasn't. I didn't want to do it.
I would like to blame somebody in the top square.
I did not want to take Ronald Jones, but I was out of time. I mean, there were no more running backs. He was the last one. And
I had to take a walk around the block after you posted that picture. That
Oh,
I hold the
no.
record. I was
Oh
like,
no, I'm
"Good
sorry.
God." All my values have caved.
I didn't want to do it. I had to do it. I mean, this draft challenged me in a way that no other draft ever has. I think I'm a very good drafter.
Is
But
this your
these
first
guys,
time?
this is my first time in Scott Fishbowl,
Yeah,
and
it was mine too. It's
Yeah,
so intimidating.
but these
Dennis was
guys
just
are
here.
good.
The three of us. Yeah, the three of us. This was our first time.
These guys in the Power Rangers
Mhm.
division, I'm telling you right now, are the best players I've ever drafted with. Every time you think that you have an advantage and you know something they don't know, I'm telling you, every single time, gone. You just it was just gone before it. You should. I stopped queuing players because I knew that if I queued them, they would just be gone. So
We got
just
queue enough to get to you.
no, because then I end up with the trash I wanted on accident, and then
No, you rank it. You have to
No.
rank it. If
It
it's
did-
12 picks to you, you put in your top 12 players.
it doesn't work
This is-
for me.
Let go.
This-
You-
Every time I queued the player got sniped from me, Dennis. I'm not doing it ever again, and you can't convince me to do it. I'm out. I'm not doing it. I got
This
screwed on
has
that
been
deal.
a humbling off season because between this and that Debbie auction draft, I feel like, I went from feeling pretty secure to I need to go rock in a corner for 20 minutes.
I gotta get out of here, guys. I'm sorry. I
you're
gotta get food on the grill real quick. We gotta have dinner.
It was great having you back on again, Tony. Have a good one.
Thanks for having me, guys. See you around.
Later.
So the one thing I was going to say before he cut out of here was, hey, there's a news story came out today. Ronald Jones, he's put on weight. His hands are better than ever, as he said. Like, maybe you guys shouldn't be so worried about him anymore. I think he might be all right. All right, which one?
Apparently, I hope for that.
Oh, no. Okay, cool. We got Matt's. All right, so Matt, so here's yours. Kind of give us a breakdown of what you did. I'll kind of look at it as you're talking here.
First of all, I would like to say I think I found that page you were referring to, which is not much of an ego boost on my fantasy league because I'm pretty sure it does not take account of the scoring or the format because it basically said I'm a trash person for taking a quarterback in the first round. And I thought in Superflex with this weighted scoring, how could you do this? And then I started reading their squares, and apparently it's based on regular ADP, so I guess that's probably why you guys aren't reading them. It was a blow to the ego a little bit reading that I was ranked 11th out of 12 in my division, but I think it was because they didn't like that I went quarterback and tight end with my first 3 picks. However, in this format, sort of makes a little more sense. A lot of guys, I don't know if you guys joined your pick chat, but I had pick 109, so all the people across the leagues that were in 109 were in a chat, and a lot of people were targeting Kittle at that 109 mark, and I just saw 5 quarterbacks kind of go before I got to me. So I have some regrets about my first pick, not because I don't like Deshaun Watson, but because I meant to pick Russell Wilson, and at the last minute grabbed Watson, and then immediately had a bunch of people in our pick chat talking about how I forgot sacks. You get negative points for sacks.
Yep.
And I started thinking about Houston's offensive line, and I was like, I don't know if I should have bet on that, but I'm going to roll with it. I mean, I still think he's a top quarterback. But then Kittle was there for me at 204. I was pretty happy with that. I went for another quarterback at 309 because a lot of guys started quarterback. So it made me real nervous. I wanted to have a couple of good performers at that position. I had been listening to the Podathon for the draft, and a lot of people were making arguments for making sure that you're set at quarterback. Then I couldn't help myself. Chris Godwin was there, and I was like, I really should take a running back because running backs are important in this format, and apparently I've gone 0 RB. But Chris Godwin, I can't quit you. And that really led to some desperation. You can see when I finally took, if you're watching online, those numbers beside them are the number at that position that's gone in your league. So Chris Carson, when I got him, he was the 25th running back. And then when we had to swing back, I picked Ronald Jones. I can't remember who else I was looking at. I ended up being apparently in all 120 Scott Fishbowl leagues the earliest draft pick at 604 to take Ronald Jones in the whole thing. I don't feel that bad about it because he was the 27th running back off the board. Our draft was just so running back heavy early. Then I started my Denver run. I grabbed Sutton, Lindsey, interrupted it to take another tight end in Goddard, and then got Locke. And then you can see after that point, I started grabbing a lot of players that I just have an affinity for. C.D. Lamb, Preston Williams. I think Dennis and I both love Preston Williams. We both have him. Perriman, I just thought that was a decent pick. 53rd receiver off the board. Seemed like a guy who's probably going to get some volume. I grabbed Boston Scott. That had some decent upside. Pittman. Justin Jackson, if you read that I posted for the blog on Tuesday, I'm not ready to quit Justin Jackson, even though it didn't work out for me last year. I think I was just a year too early, so I have some hopes for that one. And then took some lottery tickets. There was a lot. I was going to take Jalen Hurts, just because I have Wentz, and the dude 2 picks in front of me took Hurts, and I was like, cannot believe this. So I went with my other thought, which is PJ Walker. I loved him in the XFL. I was super high on him. And, if something happens to Bridgewater, I think he could be a real screamer in that system. So I figured it wasn't a bad flyer at the end of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, so I like it. I mean, obviously, I wish I would have probably gone quarterback a little bit heavier earlier on, like you and Dennis both did. I kind of waited a little bit. I feel like my draft probably played out different than your guys. Just listening to you guys talk about how quickly running backs were going and all this other stuff, my draft did not go nearly that way. But, I mean, I like getting Locke as late as you did. I know we were talking about it as you draft him. I was kind of hoping to grab him later because I have Cortland Sutton. I was trying to pair those two together. Obviously we're both high on Lindsey. I don't mind the Justin Jackson. I love Cole Beasley. Dennis, did you have Beasley on yours or no?
I did not. I had him in the queue probably a half a dozen times, but I just never pulled the trigger on him.
Ever since we had Bob Lung on talking about consistency, he's the guy I've been getting really later in drafts because I figured, hey, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I like that. That's exactly why I have him too. I thought it was pretty cool. You, me, and Tony all have him. I think probably all around the same pick as well in the 17th round. And I really like the Brashad Perriman pick as well. I mean, there's not really much in New York right now. I mean, everybody's high on Denzel Mims, but as we talked about all here, this offseason is going to be weird. Will Mims really be able to step up and be the one? I like that. Lamb at 11, I like. Something I heard today that I didn't even think about. Both Randall Cobb and Jason Witten both vacated 80 targets last year. So that's 150 targets that have to go somewhere, and they're not going to Blake Jarwin. So I can easily see maybe CeeDee Lamb getting 80 to 90 of them. So, and all of a sudden, that's immediately going to make fantasy viable. So
Cobb had 82 targets last year and 55 receptions. I think all of us think CeeDee Lamb's a better player. That's why initially on draft night, when you see him go to Dallas, you're like, oh, man. But then as I looked at the Dallas offense, and, you think about McCarthy, who frequently had 3 guys that were viable when he was in Green Bay, I feel better about it.
Yeah, so Dennis, you have any thoughts on his?
No, I don't know about the Jalen Samuels, Benny Snell. Feels like it's just, I need to grab running backs. I don't know which one of these are going to matter, so I'm going to grab both of them. But then again, I kind of did the same thing, grabbing Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards. I don't know which Raiders rookie receiver is going to step up. I'm not a PJ Walker fan. I think, he's an XFL quarterback.
I think
I will say this about PJ Walker. The person who vouched for him and said, this guy is incredible and nobody realizes it and someday somebody will, is Andrew friggin' Luck. He's the one that told his dad, sign PJ Walker, you won't be disappointed. On the team PJ Walker was supposed to be on, they had a higher profile, I can't remember who it is, actual former NFL player, and Walker beat him out, and he was easily the MVP.
But I
know you weren't huge in that league.
Great. He didn't seem like he was terribly accurate. For somebody, he's not. He's one of those quarterbacks that's supposed to be athletic, but he's not really as fast as you would like in somebody that's supposed to be athletic. And
you sure we're not talking about Bridgewater?
And because he's not athletic at all, never has been. But then also Walker is what, 5'11"?
Look, it was the 21st round. There was I already told you I was at the Jalen Hurts point of my draft.
Well, but Hurts makes sense because you had Wentz.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how Washington's tight end situation is going to shake out. Sprinkle could be gold and a startable flex for you weekly, or it could be all Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, overall, I like it. I think you've got, at least even if Sprinkle doesn't work out, you've got Jimmy Graham, who probably will give you, hopefully the 1 week you need to put him in your lineup, or 2 weeks with the bye weeks he comes through for you. But having Goddard and Kittle, I mean, those are going to be your starters every single week, and I think both of them are going to be fine. So I don't hate that tight end position.
Like I told Tony, like running back, if Carson doesn't come back healthy or gets knocked out, or Ronald Jones, or I'm wrong about Philip Lindsay, not only will it hurt my Scott Fishbowl team, it will hurt my heart. But running back is definitely like the most volatile. Like I said, going in, I never intended. I had done a couple of mocks like the days before, and I always made sure I protected myself with running backs. It's weird when you get into draft and you see different runs and you see players come up. That was probably my regret. I didn't anticipate going 0 RB, but then I thought in the 5th round when it was coming back, guys would start to switch to other positions, and they just didn't. And so
Dumb bastards.
It's a gamble. No, I mean,
well, and Scott set the league scoring up to accommodate a variety of builds. So it's really going to be interesting to watch how the season plays out, because you've had some guys that went, you know what, I'm drafting 7 running backs in the first 10 rounds, and that's what I'm going to do. Or some people who went 4 tight ends in the first 10 or 12 rounds because of the tight end premium. And then guys like me who went quarterbacks early. It's really going to be, and I can't tell you how many teams I saw that had 4 or 5 top-end wide receivers in the first 6 or 7 rounds. And that was Scott's goal. He said to make people say, this is what I want to do. In retrospect, I think if I would have approached it differently, I think I'd have probably tried to go with a more balanced build, just because, well, if everything, if the whole goal of the scoring was to balance the scoring out, then build a balanced team. You don't need to go all wide receiver or all running back or something like that. But we got. I was one of them. I got wrapped up in the narrative about the quarterbacks. I don't want a quarterback that's going to throw a bunch of interceptions, or I don't want one that's going to, throw a whole bunch of incompletions at -1 per incompletion. I definitely don't want one that gets sacked a lot. So, part of the challenge I'm going to have, I think, looking at my quarterbacks, is Matt Ryan and Tom Brady, who will likely throw the ball a lot. They're not going to run, and so they throw the ball away an awful lot. So I'm going to be hitting those incompletion points a little more than I initially thought.
All right, I guess I'll throw mine up there. And yeah, the quarterback thing is definitely something that it kind of hit me a little bit, in the fact that I was like, man, I gotta start grabbing some quarterbacks, and I feel like I reached on my 2, but I mean, it is what it is. I knew I needed them, so I just kind of grabbed them. I liked my first one in Stafford. So let's see here. There we go. All right, so that's not my team. That's Dennis's team. I don't know why it's
I will say, on those draft curiosities, our league was the one that had the latest first pick for a quarterback at 10-12. Philip Rivers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he has Rivers and Haskins and Ryan Fitzpatrick. He took 3 quarterbacks in a row, but he did not go until the 10th round. I'm going to be curious to see how that plays out.
Oh, man, why is mine not pulling up now? That sucks.
I see how it is. You wanted to judge ours, but
right.
You want to spare yourself.
But it's not a good picture of it. I took a picture of it on my on my phone, and then hang on. Let me see if I can actually do something really quick here. No, I took a picture of it on my my phone on the laptop because I couldn't get it to pull up correctly. And then, it looks like crap. And so I took another one and finally got it to work and sent it. But now it's not pulling up on my email. DC Figures. Here we go. Okay, I got it. Let me see. I just got to download it on my computer really quick. If I can get my stuff to work. Because my computer's moving slow for some reason. I mean, if you can get it quicker, by all means, that's all you need.
Well, while you guys are doing that, I just want to go ahead and remind everybody about the Hunger Bowl.
Go ahead.
No Kid Left Behind. See the Hunger Bowl at the Hunger Bowl 2020 Gridiron Experts at gridironexperts.com/hunger-bowl-2020. It's a league. You make a charitable donation that's going to go to the No Kid Hungry program at nokidhungry.org. It's being organized by Aaron Sopchak at Gridiron Experts. You can find him on Twitter at AARONSOPCHAK. Go ahead and make a donation. Get in there. Draft yourself a team in one of those leagues. It's on the Sleeper app. It's one of you start one at each position, and then you have 6 flexes plus 1 super flex. Prizes like a signed Lev Bell jersey, DJ Moore, Alvin Kamara, Allen Robinson, Devontae Adams, Kenny Galladay. Autographed jerseys as prizes. Those are fantastic items. gridironexperts.com/hunger-bowl-2020. Get in there and play.
All right. So there's my team. I'll kind of give you guys a breakdown of it really quick. I just wanted to try something different with the tight ends. I never draft tight end early, and so I decided to go George Kittle right there in the first round. There was a bunch of running backs on mine that kind of fell back. Hang on one second. Dennis, keep talking about your one thing really quick.
Well, it's they're aiming to raise, I think it said here, $6,000. But according to the USDA, more than 11 million children in the United States live in food insecure homes. Many depend on federal food programs to provide them with meals through school nutrition programs. However, due to the COVID-19 outbreak, many of them are left looking for other sources of food due to school closures. This is where No Kid Hungry steps in. I think it's a great opportunity. This is the season of fantasy football giving back. We're all into the Scott Fish Bowl, the Scott Fish Bowl satellites. Lots of other charity leagues are popping up. The Down Under Bowl. I know
those eliminators that we did. Right?
Oh yeah, John Bosch and a bunch of the eliminators, the best ball eliminators. Mike Talanko, who the third Mike, who for years has done a charity league for domestic violence. This year he switched it over to a virtual 5K. So if you go at the third Mike, all spelled out, on Twitter, you can touch base with him and sign up to do a charity, a virtual run for charity as well.
All right. Sorry about that. So I wanted to get my tight end early, and that's why I took George Kittle. There's a bunch of running backs. I would have gone running back there, but there was like 5 running backs that I wanted. I figured one of them would probably fall to me. I ended up getting Nick Chubb there. Went Kenny Galladay just because I wanted to get a high-end wide receiver, and I didn't think anybody else was going to fall. I know I was kind of talking about this with you guys in the chat actually when it happened, is that I thought Stafford, or there was another quarterback, I don't remember who it was now off the top of my head, but there were 2 quarterbacks that I thought would fall to me into the 4th round, and so I figured why not Kenny Galladay, Matt Stafford, maybe stack them together. I was kind of hoping to do that. Unfortunately, when the 5th round hit, there was someone else I wanted, but Mark Ingram was there. The running back that I wanted went right before me. I can't remember who it was, so I ended up taking Mark Ingram. Then I reached on my boy Baker, and then at 7 and 8, I did the double ups there and taking. I was hoping to get lock in the 9th round, but he went before me, so I ended up taking Darnold. But I wanted the double up of Sutton there with him, didn't give, but I still got the double up of Landry and Baker. I ended up taking Darnold. There wasn't a lot on the board right there that I wanted, and so I was like, you know what? I'll just take my third quarterback here. There was a couple other guys I wanted. Jimmy G, he had gone. Teddy Bridgewater, I wanted. He had gone. So it's like, I'll just take a third quarterback in case I need one. But I'm not really planning on playing Sam Darnold, but he's there in case I need him. If, he has that big season, we all kind of hope he does. Tevin Coleman, obviously this was after the Raheem Mostert news, and I had already brought it up before. I think Coleman's going to get a lot more run than others are talking about if he can stay healthy, so I took him as my third. Jonnu Smith, I think, is going to have a sneaky big year at tight end. I went ahead and took him there. Then Slayton Williams, because I wanted to get some running or more wide receivers. And then I just kind of took a bunch of flyers, really, like Duke Johnson. If DJ gets hurt, Matt said it on the podcast. You guys will hear on Monday. DJ in Houston is going to lead the team in rushing, and so I'm hoping it's going to be that DJ. Damian Harris and Sony Michelle.
Just remember, you heard it here first. DJ in Houston is going to lead the team in rushing.
Cole Beasley, we just talked about earlier. Bob really kind of influenced me in making that decision as well. A guy that I think can plug in late. Carlos Hyde in case Chris Carson doesn't work out early. Caden Smith, DJ Dallas, and then I just took 2 flyers and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Tyrell Williams. So be nice because I can't kick you guys off. But what are your guys' thoughts?
So we all kind of doubled up on backup running backs for some team because Dennis, didn't you say, or you doubled up on receivers? But I doubled up on the Pittsburgh backups. You doubled up on the Seattle backups.
Yeah.
I love Sutton at 708. Wanting to get a top tier wide receiver early in Galladay, that getting Sutton at 708 kind of makes it feel like, was that really worth the pick there? Could you have went? Who could you have gotten at 308 as a running back, maybe to pair with Chubb?
I don't remember. I'll pull it up while you're talking about that. Let me see if I can pull up. My phone keeps messing up on me. So
see, that's the same thing kind of that I did. Galladay, I was looking at around the same time that I took Godwin at 404. And then ended up taking Sutton. I took Sutton about the same spot as you because I picked 9. I got him in the 7th round as well. If he ends up returning the wide receiver 1 value that I think he can, you've done pretty well. I think Landry was a good pickup late too. I do remember on the Podathon they were talking a lot about the advantage of being able to stack receiver quarterback, and it was nice that you're able to do that for a couple of years.
Getting the quarterback receiver pairing with Galladay and Stafford, and then matching it with the Chubb, Landry, Mayfield stack, it puts a lot of your eggs in a couple baskets. So it could, if one of the teams goes to hell or they have some injuries, it could go sideways on you pretty quick.
So, what you're saying is when all 3 of us pick both those teams to be in the playoffs, when we do our prediction podcast, we should all start weeping openly for Matt.
It's I like the team. I have concerns about Darnold as much as I like him long term. Under Gase, it seems like there's going to be some challenges with, is he going to get over the interceptions? Turnovers and sacks are really going to bite quarterbacks in the ass. I don't know if you follow Chris Bean at all, but he's been talking a lot about how bad Darnold is in this format. So if you don't follow him, I probably wouldn't start now.
No, and like I said, I kind of took Darnold as a dart throw third quarterback because the other guys I wanted had already gone. So the running backs that went right after me taking Kenny Galladay were Aaron Jones, Todd Gurley, Austin Eckler. Went right toward the back end of the 3rd round in picks 5, 4, and 2. And then in the 4th round coming back to me, and this is another reason why I took Galladay's. I thought one of these guys might fall, and none of them did, unfortunately. James Conner, Chris Carson, and Melvin Gordon all went before it got back to me. And then on the board was Le'Veon Bell and Jonathan Taylor. But I just didn't want either one of them, so that's why I took Stafford. That was when I was like, "What I'm
It's
just going to."
interesting considering how you feel about Taylor.
Yeah, but I was worried about it. Like I had Chubb, and again, same thing. I thought someone else might fall because the other thing I didn't think Taylor would go is that a couple of guys behind me going back around had already taken a bunch of running backs and thought that maybe they'd go pivot to another position, and then they didn't. One of them took Le'Veon Bell, and then one guy who had Kamara, Mixon, and Edwards, Hilaire, and then he took Taylor. And I was like, okay, well, whatever, and I'll just kind of pivot, and then that's why I took Ingram.
That was kind of, I think, the mistake I made on running backs too. You looking at other teams, and I thought, well, a lot of people want running back early, so they're going to pick up these other positions, and I'll go get that second tier of guys. And by the time I realized that was just never going to happen, my options were not probably what I thought I was going to end up with when I started this.
Yeah. So you guys have any other thoughts on there? Or, I mean, I don't know. I like it, but I don't. I don't want to be overly optimistic on it. I feel like I kind of feel like the same thing you guys said. I'm going to need everything to go right. Like I don't, but I guess nobody really has depth in this. But I feel like I'm good at wide receiver. If Ingram and Chubb stay healthy and get the carries, I think like I'm okay there, and I've got enough wide receivers and the 2 tight ends that I can play every single week. I feel like I'm really going to be hinging on Baker being the guy that I think he can be this year. And if he sucks like he does last year, I probably have no shot whatsoever.
Well, I think a lot of it too is going to come down to for not just us but for everybody is what kind of production do we get from picks 12 through 22? Which of those guys are going to step up? Will Jonnu Smith at your 11th pick, is he going to step up and outperform, Mike Williams and make himself into one of your flexes? It really is going to come down to hitting on some of those mid to late round picks. I like Ingram. I don't know if I like Ingram as my RB2. I feel like he's more an RB3, but I do think he's got standalone value. I would have liked him probably, at RB26. Well, I guess at RB26 it's not that bad. That's why I feel like wide receivers had the depth that going with that second running back in the 3rd round and then grabbing Stafford might have really put you in a little better position. You probably wouldn't have gotten Galladay, but you could have gotten Marvin Jones maybe to pair with Stafford.
Yeah, Marvin Jones went a lot later. Like I said, for me, I knew it was hard for me to take Galladay. It was between him, Aaron Jones, and Eckler for me, and I probably should have gone running back, but I just in hearing what you guys were talking about, because I know both of you not necessarily punted wide receiver, but you knew you were attacking them later. My draft was going different in the fact that a lot of wide receivers went in the 2nd round and the beginning of the 3rd. That I was like, I wanted to make sure I got that one guy. Now, had I known Sutton would have fallen to the 7th, I probably would have gone another running back. But at that point, the way wide receivers were going, I was like, man, there's just no way. I was like, I wanted to get a one guy that I knew I could trust being in my lineup every week. And so, yeah, I mean, looking back at it, I probably would have gone running back. I should have gone running back knowing I could get like a Cortland Landry double up there in the 7th, 8th, and probably been just as fine and feel comfortable with having like a Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, and Ingram stack compared to Galladay. But I just – at the time, I was like, man, as Matt said, I'm huge on wide receivers, and so it's hard to get that narrative out of my mind when I'm drafting. Be like, no, I need a wide receiver here.
This kind of scoring and redraft does not benefit our dynasty mindset we've been in for the whole off season.
For the last 6 months.
Yeah, for the last 6. That's Well, that was I think I told you guys when it happened. I was so locked in that I was going to take Locke because I like his upside and potential. Right after I drafted him, one of the guys in my league DM'd me and he's like, "Why'd you take a 3rd quarterback that has the same bye week as your other quarterbacks? Doesn't that defeat the point?" And I was like, "Holy S! I forgot about bye weeks because when you're drafting for dynasty, you don't care about bye weeks because you're thinking you're having those guys for their career and their bye week's going to change." And then I was paranoid and I looked and I'm like, oh, I better double check and make sure I didn't get all the players from the same bye week.
I had a lot of week 11 buys early in my draft, and so there was a point where I was I have 4 running backs with a week 11 buy. Now, really only 3 because one of them is the handcuff to Barkley.
Gotcha.
But I ended up having to go and maybe reach a few spots to fill out my week 11 lineup. Or make the conscious decision to buy week stack. But I feel like I was able to get it around. I'm going to have a rough week. I'm still not going to have a great team week 11. If I want to pull out a victory, I'm going to have to hope the other team shits the bed. So
the other thing that I forgot in here, which is going to be a real bummer, is the playoffs for Scott Fishbowl start week 13. And I forgot Tampa Bay and New Orleans have buys, so I effectively killed my wide receiver 1 and running back 2 for potential playoffs.
Yeah, that's the one bad thing, I guess, for me is I didn't look at any of that. I just kind of drafted. My whole thing was, this should be in my first year, I just kind of wanted to go in and I was kind of just drafting the best player that I thought at the time, and I still haven't looked at any bye week, so I don't know how screwed I'm gonna be or not. I didn't look at any of it. I just kind of went and did my own thing. So.
And then don't forget that the first waiver run is September 9th.
September 9th, gotcha.
So
if there's anybody even worth being available, I guess we'll see.
Look, it's going to be a fun experience where, I figure we learn a lot. I read a lot from people who talked about, hey, my first year, I did all these things, because I'd never done something like this, and it's really helped me going forward. I'm excited to be in it. I'm excited to be supporting and to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I didn't apply last year. I forgot to do it, and so being able to get in this year, I think is cool. It's something as a fantasy analyst or even a fan, is something I think everybody kind of wants to be in. So getting at least one shot at it, even if it doesn't happen again, is going to be fun. So I'm hoping.
And SFB 11 signups are open, so you can go up there and get yourself on the list for next year already.
He's wanting it to be live drafts and everything. If you haven't seen, which I'm hoping for, is there's a lot of really great analysts down here in Texas. I'd love to do a live draft with some of those guys, but it's definitely going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely worth it. He lets a lot of fans in as well. So if you guys aren't necessarily analysts or you're just a fan, don't I would definitely try. It's a lot of fun, and Matt said it supports a really good cause. So. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Obviously, Matt, thanks for jumping on here at the back end. You didn't miss much. Obviously, you caught the Derrick Henry hate. We just talked about Myles Garrett, and I think that was
Chris Jones.
Yeah, before that.
Just listening in my car, I remember it better than.
Yeah, well, I don't remember what happened to me 5 minutes. Wait, what were we talking about 5 minutes ago? Was that my team? Did you guys like it? I already forgot. So. But it's just having these headphones on all the time. It's messing with my brain. But we will, if you guys watch on YouTube and Twitch, we will be back tomorrow as we're going to break down wide receivers. For the rest of you, that podcast will drop next week. We appreciate everybody listening. If you have time, please rate and review. Jump into Dennis. What's it? I'm going to butcher the name of it again. So what's the charity league?
Oh, the Hunger Bowl, Gridiron Experts. .com/hunger-bowl-2020 or seek out Aaron Sopchak on Twitter.
Yeah,
and I'll be on the Music City Drive-In again on Sunday night talking about the films of 2001.
All right.
I was listening to the 50-year-olds talk about music today at work. It was kind of good, kind of funny.
Those guys are hilarious.
Yeah, they're talking about lots of pervy music back in 1979.
I think every year.
Yeah. All right, everybody, thank you again for joining us, and we will talk to you guys again soon.
Right on.